doing a marathon league, and one of the key things with the marathon league is it's a little bit different. It's not about win losses like it is in your standard redraft league, but it does reset at the end of each week for the total points accumulated. So that's one of the key things to get there. But with any type of fantasy football, it's all about what are your projections. So as we look at the ways you can get information, you can go to ESPN, you can go to metrics, analytics sites, or you can go to an area where people are actually putting their money on the table, which is the sports books. And that's what we do. We compile for all of the information from all of the bets before it gets tainted by the uneducated public. So this is all the sharp bets, and we compile it to give us the best fantasy data here, period, which is why we know we have incredible odds compared to the run-of-the-mill player on Underdogs. So it's one of the great things, Bob. We're so excited for it. We love you showing up, baby JoJo. Any thoughts here as we're waiting for this marathon league to load up?
Well, we've been talking a lot about quarterbacks recently, and I know Joey here has heard me a bunch of times where, we're big proponents of waiting on quarterbacks in a lot of different scenarios. But in the marathon leagues and in some other versions of these leagues, we've been experimenting and working on best builds for quarterbacks that early, right? So your Josh Allens, your Lamar Jacksons, your Patrick Mahomes, your Hurtses, and there's a very good chance that you can construct a well-formed team, and with that in mind, with a tight end early as well. But there are certain players that tend to crop up a lot of times, and they crop up for me a lot. It's the Joe Mixons of the world, the Josh Jacobs, the Josh Jacobs. That it's very enticing to want to pick them. But
third pick, baby.
But in this regard, guys like David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Zach Moss are still kind of sitting around there in the 6th, 7th, 8th rounds. And if you can wait long enough for your zero RB, it could definitely pay off this year as it has in the past for some years. But it really depends on the slot that you're in, right?
It does.
We've basically had every single slot on a draft board at one point in time. And
pretty much.
We do feel comfortable, the most comfortable in that 5 to 9 range. That's kind of like our mutual favorite spots. But in this scenario here, we're in the 3rd spot. So this is probably going to be Amon-Ra. If it were a weekly winner.
Unless they completely drop the ball and McCaffrey or Lamb slip to us, this pick will be Amon.
Yeah. And so, and here's the thing too, is that some of these high quarterbacks are easy to pair with their associated parts for stacking. So like Josh Allen if you were to get Shakir or Coleman later, it's a good pairing. And Amon-Ra too. Amon-Ra's pairing is really good because you can get Goff fairly late.
Which sure can.
Really nice. But a guy like Lamar, it tends to be kind of tricky. So, CD here would be nice too.
Oh, time up. CD is the play.
I mean, it was a little unexpected.
It was unexpected.
So with this in mind,
that totally changes up what the draft was going to be. So you guys just saw me looking down here. One of the things you need with best ball is you need to stack your players, right? So we're going to get Lamar. I was already planning out 3rd round, get Laporta, because I like having my queue kind of lined up as I look on the draft board, so I can just go boom, boom, boom.
But here, I'll say this.
Sometimes because a problem, because I pick a player too early, especially if I lose them right before. But I love this.
Here's the conversation.
I love this.
Here's the conversation we need to have here, okay? So, we were going to go Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, and Goff probably a little bit later.
Yeah, that would have been it. But now we're not. Now we're going to end up picking up Dak at some point.
We probably will go Dak in the 8th, maybe the 9th. Somewhere in that conversation, we need to think about it. But do we also?
I think we'll take Dak in the 7th because we'll have 75 overall. Dak's ADP is 80. That way, we guarantee he's on our team.
Knowing that
it's important to get your stacks.
Knowing that we have this early selection at the turn here as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were talking about if we got a pick like this, we would want to aim for the gusto and try to get Josh out, right? In this build now that CD's there, is it still a build that we want to try to build out a Buffalo and a Dallas stack? Is it worth our time?
So I love the Dallas stack. It's going to be one of the higher scoring ones. The fear you have with the Buffalo stack, and don't get me wrong, I've built a bunch of them, is twofold. Almost all of the Buffalo receivers are all in the same round. So you're not going to be able to compile two of them. The second issue is that with the Buffalo stack is when you're actually going. Now, granted, this is a marathon, so it matters a little bit less about the end of the year, but you do know that they have weather games like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The stack that I'm liking more than Buffalo, the more and more I'm diving into it, especially in marathon, is the Baltimore stack. And this is entirely because when Baltimore gets the chance, they will blow the doors off of someone. They do it three times a year. And since this is best ball, you win on it.
Later in the year, they do face the Browns defense a little bit later in the year.
Mm-hmm.
You do also have to consider weather with Baltimore as well. They do get a lot of bad weather, wind, rain, snow, sleet, things like that.
But that be the problem with Baltimore with our draft position is you're not going to be able to get Zay and Lamar. So that's the other issue, because you would take Lamar in the 4th round and try to get Zay in the 5th, but the likelihood of banking on Zay dropping in the 5th, it's there. I mean, his ADP is currently 49.
Can we talk about this with I don't know if it's worth our time, but a Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts stack at this turn to pair with a Dak CD stack.
Wait. Say that again.
A Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts stack at this turn.
Well, now that Henry went, I'm much more on board for that. Because I do love Henry and Lamar together. I know that they're not exactly a pass catcher. But I do love that. So let me take because we should be able to swing that. Now the thing is we don't have. I like to go off the board first and foremost. A direction that I like doing the stacks as well, but right now we go at our board. Our best players available are ETN, who we should be able to get in the 3rd round, Kareem, who we'd have to take now, which we haven't built that build before yet, with Kareem and ETN. Both top of the tier running backs we have. We could be done essentially at running back.
Right.
I kind of lean that way.
It could be worth waiting for Monty in that 5th round there. I'd say it's your decision, your call on this play.
I'm thinking Kareem and ETN.
I see. I'm not sold on this because we always end up taking like 5 or 6 running backs here. And, in those mid rounds where we're thinking about now taking Dak and taking some Dallas and some, we're missing out on a potential interesting.
But see,
interesting.
Here's the reason I push for this every time is the rankings have the running backs in the top of the draft so much higher than the early receivers. That's why you've never seen us draft Drake London. He's rated horribly in our system.
I'm absolutely not fighting that whatsoever. I'm just
but where the power is and where the value returns back is the middle of the draft. There's a ton of receivers that we have rated pretty highly, like top 50 overall types that the rest of the world doesn't. So yes, it's relying upon the system.
But here's the point I want to bring up for anybody watching right now is that going early here on these 2 running backs, right? It's not a bad thing. It's definitely going to be a thing that you're probably, with Jahmyr Gibbs' injury recently, you do want to get a nice stable of running backs. But it was something Joe and I talked about last night where it's definitely possible, and we do this all the time, where we're like, oh, well, we want Zach Moss, Mostert, and Montgomery. But if we take these 2 running backs early, we can't do that. For the sheer fact that
you can. You just have to have faith in your middle receivers of Ladd, Cooks, and
but it won't be as good. That's what I'm saying, is that the build, you're locking when you
No,
take these
see, this is the
hold
debate
on,
we
let me
have.
finish.
It's
Let me
not
finish.
as good from what the current ESPN
Oh
projections
no,
are.
I'm not
It's
talking
better
about
for when you want
projections.
to actually be the 1 in a million or 1 in 200,000 to win the marathon league.
Uniqueness, yes, there is a definite benefit of uniqueness there for sure. I'm not fighting that, but what I am arguing for more so, when I play against these two running backs in particular, it's not that I don't want to take them, because I often end up taking these two players in Kyron and Etienne. You just saw Mark Andrews go off the board. That guy's probably going to take Lamar.
Let's see if he does.
You're kind of, I'm always interested in those teams that are worth double stacking, right? Is your Philadelphias, your Kansas Cities, your Buffaloes, your Baltimores.
Well, this guy should double stack with Hurts, and he's going to.
Absolutely. He's totally going to take Hurts, and that makes a lot of sense. But why I was fighting for Hurts at that pick, Joe, with like a Hurts Devonta Smith combination, or even a Cooper Kupp and a later Matt Stafford combination, is that getting ourselves two really good stacks, people are now going to telegraph us, right? They're going to know, because we took CD, that we need to take Dak. So they're going to pressure us into Dak earlier than in most circumstances.
See, that's mostly in your head, because most people get into just who they want, and there's not a whole, because when you're doing a marathon, more so than any of the other modes, there is no value in spiting, because you're really fighting against everybody. This isn't like in the one where you need to win your room. There you spite.
That was interesting.
Love is early. We do have Love rated as the 5th highest quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but that's early for Love. Hey, Bob, we might be able to get this around later. It's a little bit early, a little bit optimistic, but we might get Lamar and Zay.
If we could, that'd be nice. It definitely helps us with the double stack, like I was saying, with like with a later Dak.
Lamar and Zay and Dak and Lamb are two quality stacks.
And it gives us the next
two picks pretty much pre-played out.
We would have to take Lamar first.
That's the order. It's Lamar, then Zay.
Now, with Hurts still on the board, there's a lot of question marks of who's going to take Hurts here.
There goes.
There goes Hurts there. I don't know if any of course, Josh Allen's probably not.
So if Lamar does not make it to us, where do you want to look?
Where do I want to look? I definitely consider Travis Kelce. Even though you don't like him very much, I definitely consider him in terms of the offense. Where
Kelce was picked in the 12th pick. Sorry, you can't see the 12th pick, but Kelce's off the board.
Where? Oh, I can't see the 12th pick.
You can't see the 12th pick. We made it bigger so you can see. Our best tight end on the board right now is Kittle, but we should be able to get him at 63.
Take Lamar.
But dude, Lamar, Lamar's the no doubt here.
Make it a little bit smaller so that we can see the whole board, because that was kind of throwing me off. I was like, oh, that is the whole board. Is that only one player, one person missing?
Yeah, there was only one person missing. You see, he took Patty Mahomes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured. I was like, wow, that was weird that we didn't see that happen. All right, so Zay here. We can definitely get a double stack with two great running backs.
And we were considering doing this a round ago.
Yeah, I was definitely championing the Hurts, Devonta Smith stack.
So this is where 11 your board comes forward. We actually have Zay ranked ahead of Devonta Smith, and we have Lamar ranked ahead of Hurts. So we upgraded at both positions, getting them around later.
Here's the thing too. That guy in the 11 hole is definitely. It feels weird that he didn't take Hurts there.
He should have taken Hurts. He messed up.
Knowing that he had both of the Philadelphia
receivers,
wide receivers. Now, there's a lot of conversation. The guy here in the 4 hole, there's a lot of conversation that there's not so much benefit in taking 5 wide receivers in the first 5 rounds, because in the marathon leagues, you're starting 3 with a flex. So you're kind of playing the odds. He's probably going to come back around and get a guy like Monty.
Well, one of his picks is never going to hit the lineup. one of his first
One
round
of them.
picks will never hit the lineup. He wasted a top 5 pick.
He wasted a top 5 round pick, and that's the conversation that needs to be had. Is that when you're doing these drafts, is that if you have 2 flexes and then you have 3 wide receiver spots, sure, you can go 5 wide receiver because you can start all 5 wide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But in this circumstance, you are locking yourself out of having one of those guys you just picked out of your lineup almost every. You're actually guaranteeing one of your players is never going to hit the lineup every single week out of those 5. Now, again, this person here with the Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson, I'm not a huge proponent of the double quarterback like that, but those 2 quarterbacks potentially could be explosive. And insofar as it's true, there's a good chance that those 2 guys could end up as top 5 quarterbacks again, but he didn't stack any of them. So if you're going to have those 2 quarterbacks as high picks, at least get them in a stack. And if you don't, you're kind of, and it's kind of what I talked about the last time that we were doing a draft together, and I was like, oh man, maybe I should have did that. And I should have, because when I go back and look at the team, it just feels weaker. You know what I'm saying? Really like the idea here in the 5th round. These running backs that went off in the 5th round, Cook, Rachaad White, Mixon, and Kenneth Walker. I don't really have a problem with any of these guys going in the 5th round. White's volume is going to definitely be interesting to watch, but it definitely feels like a decent enough pick for the round that it's in. So there goes Kittle off the board.
There goes Kittle. He was one of the guys I was considering. What I'm proposing here for these next 2 picks on our turn, a guy who I always propose because we have him as the number 3 receiver, is Ladd McConkey, and then Dak. That way we know we get Dak. We build our stack. I
just wish you could say his name right. I just wish you could say his name right.
The numbers don't need to know how to say it.
How many weeks have you been drafting Ladd McConkey and you still call him McConkey?
I always throw an L in there. I don't know why. But he is literally on every single one of my underdog teams. I have never built a team where I did not get him on, with the exception of one where I got spike picked, and I
your portfolio is definitely Ladd centric. However, here's the thing about the portfolio: if Ladd fades, he's not your number 1 or number 2 wide receiver. He's usually your 3 or your 4, so it's not terrible to.
But if he hits, which he should, he's a guy who dominates leagues.
All right.
So this is going to be Ladd and then Dak on the comeback.
Monty's off the board. Yeah, that's fine. I think it's early for but the way that the quarterbacks are going, I think it's right to get Dak here. But I would have taken Dak on the turn on that first pick.
Well, Ladd has a higher ADP. Dak's ADP is 86.
I wouldn't want him to get spited away. And usually, we've been talking about Evan Ingram and Ladd McConkey together, and they're usually they've normalized together now that they're almost in the same round. From when we started drafting in June till now,
we're getting Ladd in the 9th.
They've come back together again. All right, scroll up here a little bit so we can see the next couple of picks coming out.
There you go.
I like James Conner this year too. I think that James Conner is a stellar pick in a marathon league because he's just solid. If he's not hurt. Until he gets hurt. But, I mean, he's solid. He's a solid player. He's been solid for almost his entire career. Yeah, we got to early take Dak here because he's not going to be there on the comeback.
No, he's not.
It's almost a guarantee. Even though there's a lot of quarterbacks after us, you just saw another quarterback go. That's the guy that probably took Chase, I would bet.
Let's confirm that. Yep, that is the guy who took Chase.
Yeah, so he did the same thing we did. You rush the quarterback, you rush the second quarterback a little bit earlier, but now we have two solid stacks. Injuries withstanding, these 2 stacks could definitely pay dirt. There's not a lot of teams, uniqueness wise, right, that are going to build these two stacks earlier, right,
and go all in on them as well. So, and
with your take, Joe, that taking those 2 running backs earlier than we did, we're not kind of muddling around now we still might get Mostert on the comeback. I think that's what we're going for here.
No, actually, I want to throw out a different instead of Mostert because first off, I love Zach Moss. I think we're going to be able to get him at the 9th round. I want to propose to you. I don't know if he's going to be there or not. He'd have to slip a little bit, but Ferguson, Dallas's tight end.
I'm not huge. Oh, thank you for the kiss. I'm not huge on Ferguson, but
Quite frankly, neither is the computer, but it's a stack.
With the potential of, this offense, I would be.
Hey, I'm all for Mostert and Moss, and then coming back and getting Cooks on the next round.
Here's what I'd be concerned about. I don't want to have Cooks, Lamb, and Ferguson.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, again, Cooks is a much better player than Ferguson.
I don't want to have all of them.
Does put us vulnerable with tight end, though. Because if we're going to commit the next 2 picks to being running back, and then receiver, we don't have a tight end on the team yet.
That's correct. But again, there's the potential for Isaiah Likely later.
Oh, we're definitely taking Likely at the end.
Jelani Woods is still there. Cole Kmet will still be there.
Okay. All right, cool. So you're good with the light tight end room. All right, cool. I just wanted to express the risk of this play, but that's what our expectations are.
Thank you.
Running back in Mostert and Moss. Mostert might make it to us. He might not. If Mostert is not sitting there, the next logical pick is either an Njoku, if we're looking at a tight end, or if we're looking in the receiver round, it would be Njigba.
Njigba always is a curiosity for me because, people are talking bad about Geno, and the metrics on Geno last year, is definitely.
Well, I want the Njigba anyway.
It was definitely a down year. And with Sam Howell there as a backup for Geno, I don't think the pass catchers are going to miss a beat in Seattle at all. The offensive line should be a little bit better. And everything's pointing in the direction that this team is going to be good for fantasy purposes. But they're going to have a tough go of it, depending on, there's going to be some growing pains because, Geno and Sam Howell are probably going to turn the ball over a decent amount. And I don't know where Jackson Smith fits into that equation over, because we saw DK Metcalf last year have some really bad games and some really decent ones as well. It's just a curiosity for me. There goes Jake Ferguson. All right. I think
kind of wish that would not have been Green because this guy doesn't have a running back yet.
He might go for Mostert or Moss here. Moss is definitely getting the bad sled of things as opposed to Mostert for the most part.
I don't understand why Moss is getting slated. There goes Mostert. So I think Moss is the pick.
Moss is there. Yeah. Mostert is a guy that if you're going to do the 5 wide receivers or 4 wide receivers, tight end, whatever, that Mostert's a player that last year had 21 total touchdowns. There's going to be regression. There's no doubt there's going to be regressions. But even if he regresses to 8 or 10 touchdowns, you're getting 8 or 10 touchdowns in the 8th round, which is crazy nice.
All right, Bob. So we have him, this guy at 16 overall on our board. We weren't going to be talking about him if we were going to get Mostert because he's after both Mostert and Moss. But we have Tajay Spears. He's not going to come back around to us.
I think we take Tajay here.
Yeah, I love that we knew the general ballpark of 2 running backs there. We got 4 running backs on the roster, and we don't need to worry about one until garbage time.
The reason for Tajay there is that, yes, Tennessee just signed Pollard. Yes, that offensive line isn't great. But Spears, when given the ball, was able to do a lot of good work last year.
Mm-hmm.
The metrics all line up to point to say that Spears, if given a fair share of the workload, will be able to produce good quality games. He had a game where I believe 1 or 2 games in the 20 points, 20-point range last year. And that for me, when I'm looking at middle round running backs here, and it's also in the vein of like guys like Eckler or Brian Robinson, is that I don't want the touchdown vulture on a team with a bad offensive line. What I want is the guy that's going to make plays between the 20s if that offensive line isn't good, and he can end up breaking it for a touchdown, because I don't know if the guy with the bad offensive line is going to end up getting into that.
And also, let's be clear on this. Tony Pollard's not a touchdown vulture. Tony Pollard sucked inside the 5-yard line.
But he did end up with a decent amount of touches. Like, again, Tony Pollard last year was being drafted in the 1st and 2nd round.
Yeah.
Right now he's being drafted in the 9th round. He's not going to be as brutal because your expectations are lowered for that. So there's a good chance that both of these running backs could pan out. But again,
and I want to hit the other part off with Spears, because this is a key thing with his game. Obviously, it's less on underdogs than it is on DraftKings, being a half PPR setup. Tennessee wants to throw the ball, and Will Levis is not a good processor. He's a check down guy. And Spears is the one who will benefit.
He can launch the ball.
He either chucks it a million miles or he's checking it down.
All right, let's talk. What's the next pick here?
Cooks and Myers.
I would not like to take both of them. I think our portfolio is there's too much Cooks and Myers and McConkey.
Well, here's why. Because we have the one rated as 38th and the other one rated as 42.
I understand. I understand.
Bob, this is all about trusting the numbers, man. I understand that.
I do trust the numbers. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that if this build might not necessarily require both of them.
Well, see, the reason I love having both of them is
I think we
you're
need to
basically done with receiver now.
I think we need to go Cooks and Kmet.
No, because I think we can Kmet in the next round. Kmet's ADP is 38. You're right. We might not be able to get Kmet. All right, so I'm good with Cooks and Kmet.
And do both of the teams behind us have a tight end? Because I see Evan Ingram.
One does, one doesn't.
And is Kmet the next tight end basically in ADP?
ADP, your next tight end. No, your next Kmet is 4 down the list. It's Goddard, Freiermuth, Schultz, Hawkinson.
All right, so let's go Cooks here.
Yeah, Cooks here.
Cooks or
so
Myers,
that
your choice. I know Cooks.
No, we go Cooks for the double stack. We go Cooks because he's an insurance policy on Lamb.
Wendy's double stack.
And he's a double stack.
Wendy's should start promoting fantasy football. Everybody's using the word stack and double stack. Like, I just have a feeling that like Wendy's needs to get on it. Like, they got the saucy.
This opportunity, Wendy's. Let's have your logo here on the screen.
They got the saucy nugs. They got they do the basketball promotions, but they got to hook it up with Underdog or FanDuel or something and provide like a fantasy football double stack. Be awesome. It's like you win your league, and see that guy's smart. He got the stack. I believe he got the Cooper Cup Matt Stafford one. And for those joining us, we're talking about stacks. We actually built 2. We have the Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, and Dak and CD, and we just took Cooks to get a double stack. We like the chances that even if Cooks,
so we were getting Myers anyway, Bob.
They took Kmet.
We took Kmet. Oh, sorry. They took Myers, and then we took Kmet.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
If I've seen it more and more recently that building those 2 guys, you're going to have to reach on one or the other if you want them, because unless you're in the middle part of that round, they tend to not get back to you. It's weird.
So Bob, the only real player that I want to make sure that's on this roster at the end, until we have the debate later on the second one, but the only real player I want to make sure we get on this roster based upon our stacks is Isaiah Likely. I'm going to want Bateman, and we're going to fight about him, but I want Isaiah Likely on this roster. The rest of it, I'm just good with taking best available.
For everybody watching, okay, this is my son, and I've told him multiple times, Rashad Bateman is a garbage fantasy football player. Now, Joe, on the other hand,
as we sit here right now in this live draft, he's our 3rd best receiver on the board.
Joe, on the other hand,
remaining
keeps promoting the narrative that this is Bateman's year.
It's not that I'm promoting it. It's simultaneously recognizing that Lamar Jackson gets into a zone with one player.
Yeah,
if Andrews goes down, we have Baltimore's offense.
It's never Rashad Bateman. The answer to the question, who is Lamar Jackson's favorite wide receiver if Mark Andrews goes down, the answer is never Rashad Bateman. Ever.
At some point, he's going to step up. He was a first-round pick. He's entering his 3rd year now?
We can say that all the time. Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore. These are guys.
Kadarius Toney can't run a route. That's a difference.
Are we sure
Bateman
that
at least has the fundamentals?
Are we sure that Rashad Bateman as a fantasy player can do that too? Like I'm just sharing, and for those of you watching, you'll know my disdain for Rashad Bateman as a fantasy player. But if he ends up going off, like, good for the man, right? Good for him. But when we look at Rashad Bateman, I'm just pulling him up on my phone here. Rashad Bateman.
Well, here's the thing: you'd have to reach unlikely to get both of them.
Okay,
anyway.
So you ready for this? In his 3 years in the NFL, he has 93 catches, 1,167 yards, and 4 total touchdowns. Why?
And we're trying to hope that for 1 year. No, I get it. It's a stretch with the man. I'm not fighting that.
I mean, granted, if he ends up going to 5 total touchdowns, cool. But he's been with Lamar for 3 years, and every single year, we didn't think Zay Flowers was going to be the guy. It was like,
he did. Zay is the guy.
Every year he's been there, the question has been, oh, yeah, let me draft Rashad Bateman, and it's never worked ever. Like, they still give the ball to Nelson Aguilar, dude. Like
that they do.
Think about that. They gave the ball to Odell Beckham at one point, right? Last year, Nelson Aguilar had 35 receptions, 381 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Okay? That is 3 receptions more than Rashad Bateman and 3 touchdowns more than Rashad Bateman. So I get it. You want another Ravens wide receiver. But at this point,
it also goes with the protecting of Zay. So your top 2 receivers are covered. So Bob, I basically look at our next 2 picks as hopefully getting 2 of the 3 following guys of Joan Dotson, Adonai Mitchell, or J.K. Dobbins.
I'd be in on Adonai Mitchell, and I'd be in on J.K. Dobbins. I'd be in on both of those guys.
All right, so I'll put Dotson third on the list. If we can make it happen, we'll make it happen. Dobbins.
Talk to me about Dotson. Why do you like Jahan Dotson this year?
So here's the thing: we'd have to take Dobbins second, I don't know. It's a tough call. We look after us. We have more running backs than the board. He has 2. The guy on the turn has 4. So
is Dobbins the next up running back, or within the next 4?
He's the next running back. Mitchell is the next receiver, and Dotson's next. I don't know if they're all coming to us. I'm just saying that looking at the guy immediately after us only has 2 running backs.
Are you using, in order to measure that, there goes Adonai Mitchell, yeah.
I'm looking at ADP, looking at their current ADP.
So there goes Mitchell. So I think Dobbins would be the play here at the first pick of the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the first pick of the turn.
Mm-hmm. And then Dotson if he's still there.
Yeah. Okay, JoJo, say hi. Say hi. Who would you like, huh?
ADP wise, after this, it's kind of like a no man's land.
Talk to me about Dotson. Why would you want Dotson? He's not a guy that we project.
Why would I want Dotson? Because we are ranked 90 for this format, 90th overall.
But what's the reason, like, stylistically here? Because
the stylistic reason is because as you look at the numbers happening, Washington is simultaneously being projected to be in bigger total scoring games, and be bigger underdogs, which puts more emphasis on their passing game.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And he's currently their number 2.
The reason I ask is that it's not a player that we've usually targeted.
He's not. He's absolutely not. But we updated the spreads over the weekend, and when that happened, Washington fell into that category.
Yeah. Oh man, Jaden Daniels. For anybody looking at an interesting stack that I really like this year, and I will hopefully be building more of, and even based upon our numbers, is a Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels stack. Jaden Daniels.
McLaurin is by far and away the best one in Washington.
Daniels proven that he's going to be able to, in that first preseason game at least, to kind of shun a little bit of the disbelievers out there. But also, he's got legs, he's got an arm. He showed that in college. He played on a good team in college. He showed out. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry's always just kind of average, right? Like he's never gonna shoot up into the top 5 wide receivers of the league. And he's really never going to have a top 5 week, but he's a very, to me, in this format, a very safe floor play. And if what we're looking for here in regards to that is a safer floor play, I absolutely love a guy like Terry McLaurin. And then with the benefit of getting a possible elite level kind of quarterback play out of Jayden Daniels, particularly if you went quarterback early. So if you did like a Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts kind of thing, and then you took Jayden Daniels a little bit later, I kind of like that.
You have logic there. So Bob, throwing this at you here as it's obviously a number of picks until our turn, but knowing that how much we are about doing stacks here, there's a very cheap it's late round stack that we can make here. And I want to throw it at you. I know that we already have Lamar. I know that we have Dak, but we could do a Wandale, Robinson, Daniel Jones, and Slayton stack.
I don't like Slayton. I don't like Slayton, but I do
like Slayton. And we can still do Wandale and Daniel Jones.
You know, speaking of players,
or we can just do Wandale standalone. I'm fine with that too.
Wandale might not be on the board by the time we pick, and that's fine. But I am one of the bigger proponents out there for Wandale Robinson. Wandale Robinson showed, last year coming back from the injury. Now he's 2 years outside of that injury, and being on a team that was pretty down and out last year and may or may not be down and out this year. Mm-hmm. And he was asked to kind of shoulder a load, and he did what they asked him to do on, not 100%, right? Mm-hmm. And projecting forward, Malik Neighbors is being projected in the, in the 4th, 5th rounds of leagues right now. And he's an elite level talent. There's no doubt about it. But
there is doubt about
it. In order for him to be successful and worth that pick, you would have to believe in Daniel Jones, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think Malik Neighbors is going to have a good year enough that you're going to put him in the 4th or 5th round, where did he go this round?
Malik Neighbors went 3-5 in this draft.
If you're drafting Neighbors at 3-5, or if you believe the ADP in that regards, then you got to believe that Daniel Jones is going to have a good year. And Daniel Jones is perfectly capable of putting up 20 to 25 touchdowns in a year. And not all of those are going to Malik Neighbors. And the person that we're missing here amongst all of this is Wandale Robinson. Like, Jalen Hyatt even, right? Like these guys that New York has drafted and believed in, but then it ended up getting hurt and had a bad season and whatnot. It's just the idea of that stack at being so low, even like it doesn't even have to hit. It doesn't even have to hit. If it hits, then you have it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So you want to do the stack. That was a long story short.
By far and away. If Wandale Robinson is there, that's the pick.
Are you willing to do it at the sacrifice of Isaiah Likely?
I'm willing to do Wandale, then Likely, and then maybe come back for Daniel Jones.
All right, so Wandale first.
Because how many quarterbacks are still left and how many are needed for the rest of the league?
What's ADP quarterback situation? On quarterbacks, Daniel Jones is second on the list.
To be, and what's his underdog ADP?
His underdog ADP is 180. So our pick is 171 and then 190. Likely's is 170. They both basically have the same ADP.
That's a coin flip for me. I mean, I really like the idea of getting 3 potential good stacks.
Yeah, me too. And then we'll just figure out the extra tight end.
Yeah, an extra tight end, could be the Jelani Woods, the Greg Dulcich's.
Yeah, all right, that's fine. Then Daniel Jones will be the pick here.
We could also take a chance on a player like Taysom Hill, who's the tight end.
You can't, not an underdog, because they call Taysom Hill a quarterback.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, yeah, my bad.
So basically, I'm looking at my tight end board coming down the line here. People
So yeah,
that I love coming up. Parkinson's in the Rams. We take him in the second last round. We have 4 picks left. Parkinson's a guy I love. I think he's being incredibly slept upon. So we take him in 17. I think that's
I
perfect.
don't think he's being incredibly slept upon. I just
Oh,
don't
I
think
do.
I don't think he's done enough in the league for him to kind of qualify in that regards.
I understand
I
that,
think
but the
he,
Rams
I
went
think
out of
he,
their way to get him, and they gave him decent money.
I think it's perfectly fine when you're thinking about one of these late round tight ends that we've seen success for Tyler Higbee. We've seen success in the past for guys kind of out of nowhere in the tight end market. Last year, Sam Laporta. And I don't think that Colby Parkinson screams that he's going to have like an amazing year. But if he were to get like 600 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns, which is like a totally projectable kind of Tyler Higbee type number, I would be okay with it. And you're not drafting him super high. You're not losing out on any picks at all in order to take him. So yeah, I'm kind of in on that. And there you go. You see Rashad Bateman go.
Yep.
I also think that Colby Parkinson's kind of a better play than Noah Fant. I know that they're teammates there, but
Parkinson isn't there. He's in the Rams now.
I know the Rams project to have a better offense, like numbers wise, over the course of the season than Seattle. So you can get Colby Parkinson. Yeah, Colby Parkinson. A couple rounds later, huh? Yeah.
So, Bob, I would like to see it like this. Assuming they're both on the board, I don't mind looking at Kendre Miller, then Colby, and then for the last pick being another tight end.
I mean, I think we can
like a Jelani Woods or something like that.
I think we can totally do. I want to speak about Kamani Vidal for a moment because I was just reading something that says that he might not even make the team.
What
is that? He is struggling. Yeah, dark side. He's struggling to eat into the running back 3 numbers. Just that's just hearsay. But it's definitely interesting. Yeah,
what round was he drafted? Was he a 5th? He was a 5th rounder, right?
I'm not sure. I think we can take Colby Parkinson first. He's definitely
ADP wise, Miller is higher than Parkinson.
Okay.
But that being said, the guys after us, you're right. You got to look at your draft. They're more tight end starved than anything else, than running back starved. And also, we look at the just ADP. It's a while till Kendrick comes up anyway.
Yeah, because Kendrick has been climbing down the ladder for most boards.
Which I don't understand.
He's in the doghouse, dude. He's hurt and he's in the doghouse. So 2 things that are not generous. And like Darkside said, don't overthink a tight end, bro. Yeah, that's like I said, it's hearsay. So when we look at what's going to happen for the Chargers have a lot of running backs with Gus, with J.K. Dobbins, Vidal, and then they have some of the guys they had last year. And until like 1 or 2 weeks from now, we'll know a little bit more about Vidal. We'll know a little bit more about him. Rams tight end. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of. Like I said, the Rams are going to have a good offense this year, or should have a good offense this year. We have Kyron, so I'm really big on Kyron this year.
How can you not be?
The numbers back up Kyron as well, and where he's being taken at with the injury concerns and the idea that Blake Corum is going to take some snaps, there's a good chance that that's going to happen. But where at least an underdog here, where Williams is being drafted, it's kind of a steal. And yeah, Dark Side, you're absolutely right. It's not set in stone. So I think it's hard for me, and I know Joe could probably back this up a little bit too, is when you're going into your draft and you're looking for your kind of dart throws and you're looking at this late rounds and you're like, oh man, I'm going to try to take something. Even if a guy like Vidal doesn't immediately make the team, he's going to definitely make the practice squad. And with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards' history of injuries, he'll eventually be on the team at some point in the season.
But that doesn't mean he's ever productive or meaningful. So
and Dark Side, when Joe and I were talking about players way back when the draft was getting started, and we suggested that there were a lot of teams that should have taken Brock Bowers.
Look at that tight end run.
There are a lot of teams that should have definitely taken Brock Bowers, and we weren't expecting the Raiders to have taken Brock Bowers because they already had Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer, was one.
So, Bob, do you want Kendra or not? Because I also like Gesicki here.
You can take Gesicki. You could take Jelani Woods if he's still there. I can't see what's behind my head.
Jelani Woods is on the board, but we also can get him in last round.
It's up to you. You could take Kendre if you like him there.
Well, see, I think I'd rather take a Khalif Raymond in the last round and take Gesicki here.
It's your choice.
All right, that's what we're gonna do though. At some point, Cincinnati's going to discover that they have a tight end.
I doubt that. They haven't.
That's fair.
They haven't.
That's a fair thing that they haven't done in 12 years.
Who's the guy that they had that was like, Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert was like their boy for a long time. Then he got hurt.
Was.
Always an interesting throwback. But there was a lot of teams that should have been more interested in Brock Bowers just because of the way that Brock Bowers played in college, that he was, elite almost at everything. And that he went to the Raiders. It was kind of a questionable decision to be like, well, the Rams needed a tight end. They wanted a tight end. Why didn't they do this with their draft pick or this, the trade up, trade down, whatever. I've seen a lot of polarizing players, but I've never seen a polarizing tight end in the first round of drafts.
Hey, Bob, someone else that's been sitting around that I don't know why he is Justice Hill.
Yeah. I mean, he's sitting around for a reason.
He's at least you listen to what they're saying. First of all, we have Baltimore stack. But they say that he's going to have his own independent role. And if he does, he can standalone value in the neighborhood of an Algier.
I don't know. I would like to see a couple more games, couple more drives and stuff with Justice Hill behind this offensive line. This iteration of this offensive line, but I'm definitely in on Justice Hill. I'm definitely in on Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell's a guy that in redraft leagues you could store on the IR for a little bit later in the season. We love Derrick Henry, and we think Derrick Henry is going to have a great season.
Second best running back on our list.
But that doesn't mean that these other Baltimore running backs aren't going to have a role. As you saw last year, where even Tajay Spears had a role with Derrick Henry there. So I'm okay for that.
So Justice Hill just went,
Dark
by the way.
Side.
We're talking about him.
Dark Side. I've been clicking Jelani Woods a lot, and I don't really I don't like to hear that about looking bad at camp. Mo Alley Cox was a guy that a couple years ago I had on my team. I always end up with
you like the blue tight ends.
I always end up with those tight ends.
All right, so Bob, now we're back to who my kind of default last pick has been for a while, unless someone falls to me, which is Khalif Raymond. He's number 3 on Detroit's roster. They always have a receiver go down. It feels like every week, at least either Amal or Reynolds is out. So why is Khalif Raymond on the border of never getting drafted?
So I've heard some conflicting things from the Detroit camps that, that there's the guy like Antoine Green is one of the players that I've heard being named around the camp, that if anything were to go wrong with JMO or go wrong with Amon-Ra. Now, the question is, we know that Amon-Ra is probably going to have a foot thing at one point in time, right? We
Mhm.
know that JMO has had a checkered past, and so you look into it and you say, I want a player on a high-powered team that if an injury were to happen, that could play out.
Mhm.
But he's definitely Khalif Raymond isn't the guy that kind of camp is talking about, right? Where on this other side here, with where Dark Side mentioned, Malik Washington's a player that I drafted in, I believe, my other Best Ball Mania too, where Tyreek Hill, we've been saying for years, Tyreek Hill's going to have to go down. Jalen Waddle's going to go down. Jalen Waddle's going to go down. I think it might be good to get a guy from Miami.
All right, well, let's look at Miami. See who's still on the board from the Miami right now.
Malik Washington,
Miami
definitely one of these
still
guys.
has Malik Washington, as you said, and Odell.
Yeah, Odell's already hurt again.
And he always. All right, well, I'm good because let's face it, Braxton Barrows has never scared a depth chart.
No. And that's the thing here too, is that if you're looking in this last, for anybody watching here, if you're looking for anybody,
so Malik Washington's the present day number 3 on Miami, like as we sit with Odell being hurt.
Yeah,
yeah, he's the pick.
And you go and like Mr. Grapefruit just said there, the other wide receiver 3 to kind of take a look at, Jordan Whittington in the Rams. Again, when you're looking for these dart throws at the end of the draft, especially in best ball leagues, go with guys on high-powered offenses where players above them, where they might have a standalone role themselves.
See, Tutu Atwell's the number 3 on the Rams, though.
If a player gets hurt, they can definitely step in right away. I mean, the Rams is a little bit more crowded than Miami, so they,
it definitely is.
You have DeMarcus Robinson, you have Tutu Atwell, and then you have Jordan Whittington. Malik Washington's going to make the roster, 1,000%. Jordan Whittington probably going to make the roster too, but it's the next ups are kind of what I also like. The guy who picked 207, Andre Iasovis, Jermaine Burton, guys like that. Yeah.
Well, you want to fire another one up, or do we got to call it a day?
No, he's sleeping, so let's fire another one up.
All right.
Yeah, for anybody watching, we just had my son on. He's trying to nap. We're going solo dolo until mom comes back. So,
and we'll see if any of you guys who are watching it are going to be jumping into this marathon league as well.
And Mr. Grapefruit,
this entire episode is about marathon league. It's different setup than the Mega Millions. Just for the simple fact that the marathon carries out the whole season.
And Mr. Grapefruit has a point here, and this is the point that I was trying to make about guys like Rashad Bateman. If as a coach or as a team, I've given you the opportunity to step up and break out, and you still haven't yet, then I'm kind of not making you a priority. I'm not.
Oh, that's fair, and they showed that they wouldn't have drafted Zay if they believed in him.
Yeah, I'm not
prioritizing.
I'm not prioritizing your elevation into the lineup. Well, and Tutu Atwell, was good enough for some of the things that he was able to do. It's not enough, right? It's not enough. So it's like, if this guy, Jordan Whittington, is enough, by all means, take it to the next level. Yeah,
Bob, I love this team we just made.
We're pretty Grapefruit, we're going to fire up another one in a moment here. But we are, Joe and I are really big on trying to come out of the first 5 rounds with at least 2 running backs.
Yes.
We're in these marathon leagues, we're prioritizing stacks. So whatever wide receivers we try to take high, we try to make sure we can get that quarterback. So like a Jalen Hurts stack is tricky if you don't get AJ or Devonta Smith. The easier stack to build is the Lamar stack. A Josh Allen stack is nice with Shakir or Coleman, maybe even both a little bit later. It just depends on how risk averse or risk for that you are. And even these tight end stacks, a lot of quarterbacks line up really well with the tight end stack. So Trey McBride, and Sam Laporta, their quarterbacks are going just a tad bit later. So
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing one of those tight ends for one of those stacks could be really nice. Because even with Kyler Murray, everybody's targeting MHJ, but we're forgetting Michael Wilson showed out in a couple games last year. Greg Dortch
Mm-hmm.
showed out in a couple games last year. Arizona is definitely a team that's flying under the radar stack-wise, where you don't have to build Marvin Harrison. You can build Kyler, Trey McBride, and Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson going off. Where did Michael Wilson go in this draft? Probably in like the 12th or 13th round. As a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. And at that value, he definitely has the opportunity to crack your lineup in a couple of games.
Yeah,
Really,
Mike Wilson
really.
from the Jets went 12.
No, not Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson from the Cards.
Oh, from the Cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael Wilson from Arizona went 14-1.
So here's what I'm saying, Joe. This is a guy, Michael Wilson, ready? Where, again, the disparity between him and Bateman. Michael Wilson, 38 receptions, 565 yards, 3 touchdowns. And he's only been in the league 1 year.
Yeah, that sounds like Bateman's rookie year, though.
Right? So I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay.
But don't get me wrong. You talking me into the Wan'Dale Robinson, Daniel Jones was a better use of those 2 picks than bringing in Isaiah Likely and Bateman. You were right on that. There's no way around.
You covered it really well with Colby Parkinson. There's definitely no doubt about that. Covering it really well there. I think this team. We
just didn't get a double Baltimore stack. Not the end of the world.
I think this team has a good chance to win in a marathon league. That we took a couple injury risks for a couple players, but again, they're not our we have Kyron, Etienne, and
Bob, we're at 8.
Moss. Okay, so this is going to be wildly, a different scenario here.
Sure is.
I got to ask you this, Joe. Is this where we build an AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts?
It might be. It might be. Yeah. Unless we get some miracle of Breece Hall falling to us.
Yeah. Are you out on Bijan?
Yeah. So here, let's just break that down real quick. Our rankings have Breece Hall as the 3rd running back. As we mentioned, Henry's 2nd. Henry's kind of an anomaly. Breece Hall Bijan Robinson is our 10th running back. He is below Pacheco, Mostert, Kareem, Gibbs.
Yeah, we're not. We're definitely not high. The numbers
on Bijan.
High on Bijan.
And here's the fundamental reason why. Despite the fact that Atlanta got Cousins, the betting markets are not feeling them scoring. They're just not projecting Atlanta to score. Plus, Atlanta also has the bigger issue of bringing Cousins in is going to take away from the running game.
So dark side, in regards to a Tennessee stack, I'm not completely in on a Tennessee stack because I think that Calvin Ridley still costs a little bit too much in draft capital. And Calvin Ridley has proven that he kind of needs the pressure not on him to be successful. And with DeAndre Hopkins dealing with an injury already, that room is definitely, a little bit questionable in terms of how much I want to spend on that stack. I'm okay. I'm okay with doing with a Levis.
Okay, we're gonna have one or the other. I'd rather have Hall. I'm telling you that right now, but it doesn't matter. We're taking Hall.
Yeah.
Love that Jeff take it 6. It's a mistake. Love that it happened.
The best O-line in the league is definitely Detroit.
Yeah.
By a margin. And it's not that we're fading the O-line. It's that when you look at the movement from one year to another and you say, okay, the coach is great. You look at the coach came from the Rams and how they used Kyron and the history of the Rams there. You look at it though and you say, okay, well, Bijan's definitely going to have a big role in the offense. Mm-hmm. People are saying CMC type role. And then the next week they come out and say, well, Tyler Algier is going to be definitely in the mix as well. And it just puts a thought into your mind that, Tyler Algier has performed really well in the past years. So we know that Breece Hall doesn't have any competition, has zero competition behind him. So while
let's have a quick little chat here, Bob, with our pickup here next. Well, I was going to offer Debo as an option, but he's not there. The pick should be Henry. The second best run. We can walk out of our draft with our number 2 and number 3 running backs.
We can do that.
We're definitely
going to have to play some magic in the third round.
We are, but we have 2 and 3 running backs off the board from our list.
Dark side, not yet. Not in the same respect that Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier has already proven at an NFL level that he can compete, that he can score, and that he can rack up yardage. So we saw it. We saw it last year with the terribleness that was Arthur Smith as a head coach, where Braylon Allen has not yet seen that level of NFL competition. And Breece Hall is an elite level talent. So if Breece Hall goes down to an injury, yes, that's unfortunate. It would happen, and it's bad. But if Breece Hall ends up getting healthy, they're not going to end up all of a sudden saying, "Oh, Braylon Allen, we're going to keep you in the game and not play Breece Hall." But with Bijan, the thing is that if Bijan's not fully healthy, and they have a chance to make the playoffs, Tyler Algier can perform as well.
We might be able to get a Devontae Hurts stack.
I would be up in that. I would definitely be up in that 1,000%. I don't want to build a Lamar. I don't want to do a Lamar Zay Flowers. I don't want to be that all in on Baltimore that early.
And I don't want to do another Buffalo one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the Jets do.
Devontae would have to be the first pick, though.
They took that Israel Ikabanda guy. They ended up, a couple years back having James Robinson on the team. But Breece is the man. Like, we saw him perform on a terrible team last year. It should be a little bit better with Aaron Rodgers there. People are projecting that if we're taking Garrett Wilson that high, Breece easily could elevate into the top slot behind that offensive line in the way that team could function easily.
So, Bob, the reason I like this is that the guy who took A.J. Brown will not have a chance unless he takes Hurts now. So we theoretically could get the stack for the most logical build unless he takes Hurts right here.
He might take him now.
He might take him here. You couldn't fault. It's a logical strategy. All right, so this is Devontae.
Okay. Yeah, Devonta Smith is good. And here's the thing about Devonta Smith is he's being faded so low. But him and guys like Jalen Waddle, is their standalone value is still extremely high.
Yes.
And if an injury were to happen to the top slot, they'll step in right away and they'll be able to perform. And with Devonta Smith last year, just, not even going points per game wise, we're looking at 81 receptions, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, which is nothing to scoff at all. You see Travis Etienne falling because we didn't end up taking Travis Etienne at the top.
Well, that's where Etienne's ADP is 33.
The one thing about Etienne that worries a lot of people, that is definitely a valid concern, is his after, between like weeks 10 and 17, his performance when he wasn't getting a ridiculous amount of touchdowns really fell off. And his points per game average really dropped. But I'm not sure that.
So did the whole team, though. They kept throwing interceptions and they were losing.
I'm not really sure that was all Travis Etienne's fault.
That's right.
I really do think that there was some coaching decisions being made that Trevor Lawrence didn't play as well. Thinking about injuries, thinking about offensive line injuries, thinking about, the defense.
Yeah, they were behind the game script constantly.
It was rough. It was really rough to watch the Jaguars later on.
But on that note, though, the markets believe in the Jacksonville offense this year. They really do. It's one of the most improved offenses from last year to this year's projected.
Now, the only
people are invested in Jacksonville.
The only thing that might prevent a Hurts here is if they're telegraphing us with the Devonta Smith.
Yeah, again, even if it's telegraphed, ADP wise, he's not the next quarterback up.
No, because it would. Yeah, I mean, technically he is. Technically, most people would rather have Hurts than Mahomes. Um, just because Mahomes doesn't provide you with as much rushing upside as Hurts. Now, granted, I don't think
We have them ranked categorically. Hurts is better than Mahomes.
I don't think Hurts is going to go for like another 15 touchdowns, but at his current value, this team with Saquon Barkley will be better, and it will be able to perform later in the game better, which will keep Jalen Hurts on the field, and I like that. I like that Jalen Hurts will be on the field when the games are in hand, because one of the things that was a problem for Philadelphia and a problem for a couple other teams is that, using your running backs wisely as the game gets late into the game. You talk about Buffalo with James Cook, or would you rather rush it with Josh Allen? And I think for the most part, it gets a little bit complicated when we look at those quarterback running back duos. And a lot of people are like, well, they're fading Saquon Barkley because they don't believe that Saquon Barkley will get it where, other people are really high on Jalen Hurts and saying, well, don't need to worry about Saquon Barkley. I think that they can both be mutually good and both be, categorically the best on the team and what they do. That's just kind of my 2 cents on the Philadelphia kind of conundrum that people are having. To be honest with you, I don't have a problem with taking all Philadelphia players in this first couple of rounds here. It is very possible that you can create an all Philadelphia team. You can get A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith, and Jalen Hurts all in the first 4 rounds. And you can win with that. You can win a home league. I'm not saying you can win Best Ball Mania, and I'm not saying you can win Marathon with it, but you could definitely win a redraft home league with a lineup like that.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just set it and see where it flies, So coming back around here, when we're looking at the wide receiver rooms, we see Kittle went there. The news with Ayuk is definitely pushing Kittle up boards more than we would like, because in the past we've seen him in like the 6th and 7th and 8th round.
Mm-hmm. It's pushing Debo up too.
It's pushing Debo. It pushed Debo up way more to start with there. Yeah, dude, it's definitely JT and Saquon are on teams with, JT, good offensive line, young quarterback, going to get a good amount of volume. Saquon, going to get amount of volume on a good scoring team. It's hard for me to think that.
All right, Bob, here's my proposed for our upcoming 2. Not to cut you off, I'll let you jump back into that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proposing at the 56 pick, we take Kyle Pitts. It's going to be 3 picks, or it's going to be 5 picks for his ADP. And then on the comeback at 65, we take Jalen Reed, whose ADP is 68.
I'm okay with Kyle Pitts. I don't know if I want to pump the brakes on Green Bay wide receivers or not, because, the research stands for itself in terms of numbers. Is that Green Bay
has the edge.
Green Bay is going to produce.
Yes.
If we do,
you're good with Pitts here.
Yeah. If we do this, is it possible to also get Jordan Love?
I can figure out how to build this. Let me start thinking.
I'm just asking.
Love would be 86. So basically, what we would have to do for Lovey here is our following round.
Yeah,
it would be a little bit of a stretch on Love. Love's not guaranteed at 89. Of course, neither is McConkey at 80. I'm literally allowing the risk of Ladd.
Well, you built Kyle Pitts earlier than you normally don't build Kyle Pitts.
I normally don't go tight end early, but I also see how tight ends are getting pushed up in this draft, and I know there's a cliff after Ingram. It's Pitts, Ingram, cliff. Well, and I don't want to be left out. This is a survivor league. You need to put up points. You can't have a dead tight end if you're going to beat the entire magnitude of all entries. You got to have a tight end.
And that's fair.
If this were Best Ball Mania, yeah, I'm okay with it, because you just got to get through your first week, your first league. This is against everyone in the marathon. So like I said, I pushed Jalen Reed here. It's about right for his ADP. I'm never going to be upset with Ladd. We have him as such. Ladd's the best value on the board, but we also might be able to get him here at pick 80 overall.
Yeah,
To me, this is Ladd or Jalen Reed.
I would go Jalen Reed here. Jaden Reed. The only problem that I have with Jaden Reed, really, honestly, is that Dobbs played really good down the stretch as well. Or in the playoffs, Jaden Reed played really well down the stretch. So, Dark Side, if you watched us last year, I was big on Njoku last year. All of the metrics were pointing Njoku was going to have a good season last year, and they did. But what we see is that if it's a healthy Deshaun Watson, and we saw what.
Well, I can build this where we can put Dobbs into it. It's going to cost us Mostert, though.
If you look at his numbers with Watson as opposed to Joe Flacco, the numbers were definitely favoring his time with Joe Flacco. So if I'm taking Njoku, the cliff happens at Ingram, and Njoku is kind of how I view it.
After the cliff.
How I view it is Ingram is the edge of the cliff, and I view Njoku hanging on by a fingertip from the cliff until he falls off, and until we know if Deshaun Watson's going to return to form, which he probably won't. He, getting hurt or being in or having legal problems. The guy hasn't played a full NFL season, and for that reason, I think a lot of the Browns players end up going down the board a lot. If Deshaun Watson was the player that we would like him to be, and a good player like that, you would never see Amari Cooper being drafted in where he's being drafted. He would be much higher because he has the chance to really be an absolutely elite guy. And for that regard, if everybody believed in Deshaun Watson, Njoku would be a guy that we would be talking about with the Dalton Kincaids, with the Trey McBrides as well, because he has the physical talent to really lay it on. If Jordan Love's here, dude.
No, this is Ladd. There's no way this pick isn't Ladd.
Okay.
We have Ladd as too highly rated. He's a magnitude above everyone else in the field right now.
That's fine.
The only other person who's close to him is Rasheed Mostert.
You mean Mostert and Moss? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we can get Moss. So we'll have a debate between Moss and Dobbs later. But I think we're going to get Love on the turn anyway. I look at long as one of these two guys don't take Love, I think we're getting him on the turn.
Well,
his ADP is 87. We have pick 89.
He might go at 88 or 87. He might go right at ADP.
He could.
There's a lot to say. Yeah.
This guy who's picking after us is 100% lost.
How many wide receivers does he have?
6.
Well, there goes most.
6 receivers through 7 rounds. That's asinine.
That's wild.
Yeah. Well, there went Mostert, so okay.
And Dark Side, to the point that you're making, Deshaun doesn't have to be elite, but Deshaun does have to do. I would say, in order for Njoku to return value at where he, at his position, because he's still not drafted yet, right? In order for Njoku to return value there, what I see as a good year. Can you scroll up, Joe? As a good year for Njoku, again, 81 receptions last year, 882 yards, 6 touchdowns. I would like to see Njoku have, between 70 and 85 catches, between 700 and 900 yards, and between 5 to 7 touchdowns. Is that possible? Yes. But that is not, those aren't the numbers that we're projecting for a guy like Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts we're projecting easily with Kirk Cousins, easily in that 800 to 1,000 category. Mm-hmm. Dalton Kincaid is being pushed up for that very reason. So it's not that
on that note,
not that Njoku's bad. It's just that he is the cliff because he can either return that 882 yards and 6 touchdowns or be at maybe 900 yards and 2 touchdowns. It really just all depends on how Deshaun Watson plays. So it's not, he doesn't have to be elite. Deshaun Watson doesn't have to be elite, but he does have to be on the field. Now, if Jameis Winston were his quarterback,
hey, Bob, can I propose this? Instead of going Love and Dobbs, can we just go Moss and then get Stafford later to pair up with Ladd?
You mean Herbert later?
Yeah, Herbert later. Yeah, sorry.
Well, Herbert has the plantar injury, so I'm not really huge on Herbie right now. I mean, it's fine that you don't want to take Love if you feel not comfortable.
It's not that I don't feel comfortable with him. I like, first off, I think Love's going to be a top 5 quarterback, so I'm all on the bus with it. It is more so my running back depth I'm worried about now. We do have Tajay and Moss as 2 great guys we can pick up here. Mm-hmm. If we get them both, if we get both Tajay and we're perfect.
But yeah, I'm not saying we have to take Dobbs. I'm not saying that. But
I'm basically saying of Tajay, Moss, and Dobbs, I want 2 of the 3 of them though.
I don't know if we'll get 2 of the 3, but it's definitely a possibility.
I think we got to shoot for it.
I think by taking Jordan Love, we might rush other people into taking a quarterback as well.
I'm all for that.
You know, because you see Dak going off the board, Purdy's still hanging around, Goff and Stafford are still hanging around for the 10th round as well. There's definitely a chance that people are now worried about quarterbacks enough that they won't be loading up on back end running backs,
which is the hope.
And the guy right next to us has 3 running backs.
3 runners in a row, yeah. Which, quite frankly, he missed on all 3 of them.
There goes Zach Moss.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. It's definitely a bummer. Hopefully Tajay Spears comes back to us. There's a good chance he does.
Well, Tajay's 111. So the order would be Dobbs and then Tajay.
And Joe, the only reason I kind of went Jordan Love there is because I'm seeing a lot of green. I'm also seeing that purple there, but I'm also seeing a lot of green. So
yeah, we also have never done the Green Bay Philly combo.
No, we haven't, and they're projecting.
So it gets us into a new build. Someone we should throw on late is right. Goddard.
Oh yeah, the Goddard.
Yeah, instead of taking Komet, we'll take Goddard because we're talking about tight ends after the cliff. Might as well take the one who's on your stack than not.
Right.
So
yeah, and if I'm building Njoku, and that's the problem with the Browns is that I don't really want to build Deshaun Watson Amari or Deshaun Watson Judy or Deshaun Watson Njoku. It's super cheap. It's super, super cheap, but there's so many better options. Where did that?
It is going to kick us out of Spears though. We're not taking Goddard.
No,
Goddard's the odd man out of the 2 out of the 3.
Spears would have to be the guy here as long as we can get him.
Well, Dobbs is the first one. Spears is the second one.
You think so? There's a lot of wide receivers after us and not a lot of running backs.
That's true. That's right. Got to get off of the ADP looking at the actual draft. You're right. Spears should be the first one. Spears will be the first one. And we're starting to see separation in drafts between Pollard and Spears. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't add up to me. Spears is a much better player than Pollard.
The jury will be decided this year. We'll definitely get a chance to see what everything is going to pan out. But I agree. If we need Spears here.
Yeah.
We're big on Spears. Improved O-line, like you said. And it's definitely a really great opportunity for them. Tony Pollard already went. I don't see this guy taking Spears. He's probably going to take it. David Njoku. We think Spears is going to be better dark side. We really, when we look at the team and we look at the future, Levis is the current future of the franchise, right? And Pollard, they signed Pollard, but he does the same things as Spears. So it doesn't really fit. Mentally, maybe he's brought in to just push them to the next level and push Spears a little bit more, but they do the same things. And
it also could be he was brought in to hit the salary minimum that rarely gets talked about, but that's what he did. There goes the really big signing. So there goes the Goddard. To a guy who already has a tight end.
Well, I mean, that's okay, but no, he has 3 tight ends because he has Trey McBride too.
Yeah, Goddard would have been a little bit of a force in terms of our big board. He's not the greatest value right now, but it was more for indulging the stack.
Wait, does that guy have Trey McBride, Ferguson, and Goddard?
No,
or am I just imagining that? Okay.
No, he only has the 2 tight ends.
Okay. He had Marvin Harrison. That's why he has that. That's why he has that.
So Bob, if we can pick off Dobbs now, which we're not going to be able to.
There he goes. That's okay. We could build Wicks in the 11th round. We don't need to, but we could.
So on our big board, here are our 3 best players left.
We could take a chance
big
on
board
Edler
rankings.
Here.
We could get all 3. No, well, we're not going to get all 3 of them. The big board has best players left of Zeke, Myers, and Cooks. I love having both of them on the team. Their peak weeks do not line up with each other. They both have projections to be top 15 players.
I'm okay with
like getting them both.
Or Cooks. I'm okay with Myers or Cooks here.
And then the other one on the second pick. So I'm going to take Myers because he has higher ADP and hope we get Cooks on the comeback.
Probably won't.
I love these 2 as my 4th and 5th receivers.
So looking a little bit further ahead, knowing that we only have 3 running backs here, it could be a good thing to keep in mind of the J.K. Dobbins.
I already have him penciled into to 137, Bob.
The Khalil Herberts. And
I love throwing Herbert in late as well.
And who's the other guy I had in my
Algier
as a possibility as well. Yeah, I think I'm okay with thinking about those players together.
So here's our ideal follow-up for the next 3 rounds. It's Cooks, Dobbins, Algier. That's the ideal next 3 rounds for us.
I'd be willing to play around with Wicks, knowing that we have Jordan Love as well and Jaden Reed.
Let's see where Wicks goes. All right, so Wicks would have to go instead of Cooks. Basically, one of the 2 of them will be there.
But again,
we'll take whichever one's there.
Here's the thing about Wicks is that even though the metrics and his play style fit really well into this team, he's still probably the 4th wide receiver on this team.
And Cooks is the 2. I mean, that's
it really depends. Dark side, when it comes to Mike Williams, in different formats. So in weekly winners format, we are definitely in on a guy like Mike Williams. But with his checkered injury history, the Jets are going to score more points than they did last year. It's really interesting to try to consider what's going to happen, especially, with cold weather games, injury history, and thinking about the longevity of health for Aaron Rodgers over the course of the whole season. Not quite sure if Mike Williams is the best play, but it's definitely a play that we have considered on multiple occasions.
And just to hit up with the defense of Cooks and Myers, we look at the guys who are going around them here. Both are pass-happy offenses with an absolute stud above them. If the stud falters, they are the next line up. So you look at both Devontae Adams and CeeDee Lamb, near historic targets last year. Either one of those 2 go down for whatever period they are, you see Myers and Cooks accelerate. But since Cooks went, as I said, it's either going to be Wicks or Cooks. Wicks it is.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's okay because Zeke went as well. That was another guy on your board.
And again, we come back, we get Dobbins here, we're set.
And this is the 12th round, so we're feeling okay. And again, you look at that string of running backs that just went. There's a lot of question marks that these guys could end up having like a really good year for people. Trey Benson with James Conner's checkered pass, who knows? Zach Charbonnet, will they finally allow him to do more in this offense? It's not looking like they will.
No.
Jerome Ford has some standalone value if Nick Chubb is not going to play. If Nick Chubb ends up playing the whole year and plays like he used to before the injury, that could be great, but probably not.
Damn it.
And then Zeke. That's why I was suggesting that maybe Dobbins would have been the play with the Wicks where Wicks was, but that's okay. Who's the next running back up?
Algier.
Okay, so we take him.
Yeah.
Him. Not a big fan of the running back room right now, but we'll see.
Oh, dude, how can you not be a fan of a running back room that starts with Hall and Henry, who are playing every week?
Well, yeah,
I mean, this is literally just for insurance policies. There is no one we were going to be able to draft that was going to pop off them. All right, so both our running backs just went. Obviously not what we wanted.
Who's next?
Total rankings for us, Schultz, Dotson, Bateman. Schultz really being the only one in the neighborhood who should be on the board.
Not Dotson?
Dotson is 143, so I mean it's either Schultz or Dotson. I kind of like Schultz here. We haven't drafted him much, but I more so like him because he's our best player left on the board.
Okay, take him.
And we need a second tight end.
That's
in case Pitts, ends up being Pitts.
Yeah, there's a lot of mouths. There's a lot of mouths to feed in both Green Bay and in Houston. But what a lot of people are forgetting, there goes Mike Williams there. What a lot of people are forgetting is just like in terms of production as it goes down the field, these teams aren't going to forget about their tight ends like Luke Musgrave and Tyler Kraft and Dalton Schultz as well. And even in a year where those wide receivers started to show out in Tank Dell and Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz still had 635 yards. And in a better team where maybe he drops some, coverages off, there's a good chance that he can replicate those numbers. Again, the cliff is real. He's going to be on a high-performing team.
Mm-hmm.
And if any one of those wide receivers does go down, there's a very good chance that Schultz picks up the slack.
And even if they don't, he's on the field every play on a high-scoring offense.
We're hoping we don't need to play him, but if he does, it's not a bad pick.
Yeah. So Bob, looking right now,
there goes Dotson.
We'd be looking in the neighborhood of, really ADP wise, Donnie Mitchell would be the best available if he's still there.
Okay.
Just doing overall ADP to our rankings that are any value.
So can you go over our wide receiver room for a moment? I know it's
who we have.
Yeah, because
we have Devontae, Jalen Reed, Ladd, Myers, and Wicks.
Okay, that's a solid 5.
Yeah,
because the logic is all there that if one of the players doesn't turn out for Green Bay, we also have that option there. All right, scroll back down.
Mitchell would be who I'd want if we have Donnie Mitchell.
Oh, I thought you said Gardner Minshew.
No, did way too early for that.
Yeah, if Donnie Mitchell's there, Josh Downs played well last year, but again, he's going into the season right now hurt. And we had talked about, do we want to own the second or third wide receiver?
You know what else we could look at, Bob? This would
give Mitchell.
Since Mitchell just went, I want to propose this. We take Wandale, we take Khalil Herbert around early.
Right here?
Yeah. So that way we get the 4th running back, and we've seen Khalil Herbert steal touchdowns forever. We've also seen Swift be hurt forever. He could be the starter for the whole second half of the year. So I would I'm proposing take Herbert now and then Wandale on the comeback.
Okay. That's fine.
Because I know I'll never talk you into Bateman.
No, you won't. Yeah, Dark Side. With tight ends, like we said, it's definitely at that pick could have been better to take Mitchell there, Joe, over Schultz. But with the tight end room, we think that Kyle Pitts is going to be solid. We hope that Schultz will never have to really touch the field for us.
That's the hope.
But if he does, he's still on a high-performing team. And, yeah, they went out and got the college tight ends, and we know how much CJ Stroud really clicked with a guy like Tank Dell. They really liked each other. They really clicked really well. So there's a lot to say that metrics don't point out to us, but that like the human person experience does, where once a guy clicks, for whatever reason, like, and this is again going back to Bateman. For some reason, Lamar Jackson clicks better with a guy like Nelson Aguilar than with Bateman. And that could be a personal thing. That could be something else. We don't know. And it's not worth thinking about the conjecture.
Oh, I can tell you why. Nelson Aguilar, when he gets open by 3 yards. When Bateman gets open, he gets open by 6 inches. Lamar's more comfortable throwing a college open.
Yeah. And you'll never talk me out of Wan'Dale Robinson over here in the 14th.
Oh, Bob, we have a receiver room problem. We have 3 receivers all with the same bye week. Part of doing the stacks, this is what will happen.
Okay.
So throwing Wan'Dale in there.
Is that
his bye? His bye is a different bye, so we should be fine.
It'll be okay. He's week 11, I believe.
He is 11.
And we're good on quarterback bye weeks as well. I mean, it's something to think about, but
yeah, 5 and 10, they're separate.
Oh, there goes Wan'Dale. Damn it. Okay.
All right, so that kills that whole play.
All right, who's next up?
All right, so Bateman's our best on the board. Miller's a little bit too early.
Yeah, don't do that.
It'd be Johnston, and would be your guy.
Take a chance on Johnston. The camp news is not good.
But it's lad insurance is what it is.
I like DJ Chark as well, but DJ Chark didn't look good in that preseason game. So,
the numbers don't like Chark.
Conversations aside, I think that with Quentin Johnston he's being faded really, really low. I would have
he's still the number 2 on that team.
Yeah. Brendan Rice. Yeah, it's for a surprising, when we look at wide receivers here, Darkside just mentioned Brendan Rice. Quentin Johnston didn't look good, and he could be another Rashad Bateman, right? Quentin Johnston can easily turn into the Rashad Bateman, and
he could also click.
But we don't yet know if what we saw last year is the totality of what he is. Would I have rather had Wan'Dale Robinson? Absolutely.
Yes.
So, that guy in that spot definitely didn't like that.
No, we didn't.
Like we mentioned earlier before, it's sometimes a good idea to take a chance on uncertain wide receiver situations. So you see the Demario Douglas that pick 15-1 there. That who knows how that's going to shake down, and getting one of those players could pay out. So,
all right, so we have 4 picks left, and we are not really light anywhere. I'm fine with kind of wherever we want to go here. Looking downfield, our 2 best running backs left are Kendre Miller and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then a cliff. So we could set this up that we could essentially guarantee our people by taking them all around early. But this is my proposal. Because there is no all the receivers we get left, we can get in the last round. With the exception of Bateman, that we're not even bothering talking to you about Bateman anymore. So I propose
here's the thing.
We take
Joe
Kendre here.
Joe, if you want to take him and he's here in the 15th round, by all means, take him.
Well, I'm just talking about total team construction. Do you see any holes that I need to go into with a position? Quarterback, we're set. Hall and Henry are our backs. I would like a 5th over Spears and Herbert, which Miller tends to be my guy.
Well, then take Miller. I mean, it's totally fine. I think it's too early, knowing what we know about
it. Is, but we don't have this person for this round who's quality, and we have 5 people for the lower rounds. So I'm just trying to batch it in. And And also with the plan of throwing Minshew on this team.
I don't like that.
Well, I like Minshew because it's a stack.
Yeah, but we don't know if it's gonna be a stack.
I'm also okay rolling with just the 2 quarterbacks we got. Jordan Love doesn't come off the field. I'm fine with that. And then we take a floater receiver at the end. My bias is either Khalif Raymond or Tutu Atwell.
And like I said, we don't like I'm trying to kind of get you to think about diversifying those players because.
Well, I do love Noah Brown.
Noah Brown again, an offense that's going to score a decent amount. There goes Justin Fields.
I like Mac Hollins now.
We could think about him in the last round. We could definitely think about him in the last round. Do we want to pick up another tight end?
Yeah, we're taking Parkinson's next pick.
Okay.
I love him as a 3rd tight end.
So we have 5 backs, right?
You're going to have 5 back. Well, we'll end up with 6 backs if we take Clyde Edwards in the second last round. Okay. We'll end up with 2 quarterbacks. Here, let me read it to you. It'll be 2 quarterbacks, 6 backs, 7 receivers, and 3 tight ends.
Okay.
So here's the thing. We have value in Clyde Edwards-Helaire when no one else does. It's just the thing.
I mean, your numbers do, but like the numbers are spitting out that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is if Pacheco were to go down for any one reason or another, and he might even have a little bit of standalone value.
Yeah, we have 129 overall, which is pretty solid. Considering the fact we're drafting him at when we draft him, it'll be at 200 overall. So
it's not bad if he's still there.
He's
again to think about
borderline drafted player. His ADP right now is 214.7 out of 216 picks. So I'm pretty sure he will be there.
All right,
Matt Collins' ADP is 216, period.
I'm willing, I'm willing to roll the dice on how do you spell his name? I don't know.
What, Matt Collins or Clyde Edwards?
No. I know how to spell Matt Collins.
That was easy.
Yeah, again, we could go for a guy like we did the last time with Malik Washington. We could go with Andre Iasavis from the Bengals as well. We know that T. Higgins has a hard time staying healthy.
Yeah, but he's not. Iasavis is. I don't know. I like Burton more. That's just a bias.
Burton just got picked.
Yeah, I know, and I also think that Iasavis is at the end of the day more of a camp candy than a reality guy. Matt Collins. Here's why I like Matt Collins. He's a veteran, stable force, and the rest of that receiving room, with the exception of Curtis Samuels, is super young. So he has a chance of basically being the Keenan Allen that kept Quentin Johnson from ever getting on the field. And with Claypool hurt, it's going to be his role to do it.
Well, Claypool's out.
He should be on the field a lot. Yeah, Claypool's out.
Yeah, he's out.
So
there goes Malik Washington.
Yeah, word's getting out, man.
Ricky Parasol. Yeah, I mean it's worth it.
Parasol's someone who's going to skyrocket the second Ayuk actually moves. Just to let everyone know this.
I've taken Parasol in a couple of drafts.
Yeah, Parasol's someone worth investing on if you believe that Ayuk's actually getting moved. But Bob, as we're bringing down the final 2 picks here, why don't we kind of conclude the episode knowing we're going to wrap it up at the end of this draft?
Yeah, I think as we've been saying all episode, it's really when you get down into these lower ends of the draft here, you don't really want to look for potential floors. You want to look for potential ceilings. So you want to see, are there situations that could end up being turned around? So like a guy like Marvin Mims, Denver's not really a hot commodity at any one point in the game here, but they have Cortland Sutton. They have Josh Reynolds. Marvin Mims is speedy. There's a good chance that he can get involved. He could spike a couple good weeks. A guy like Tyler Boyd in a situation where they want to pass the ball, and Hopkins is already hurt. Boyd has proven that he can step in and is a good wide receiver. Jalen Tolbert, another younger guy than Brandon Cooks. If something were to happen with CeeDee Lamb or with Cooks, he immediately steps in as the wide receiver 2 on a really high-powered passing offense. You look at a guy like Michael Wilson. Again, like I mentioned, Michael Wilson, that would be a guy that I would have liked over Kendre Miller. Hey, Greg Dortch just got taken. That should have been a pick as well. Anyway.
Dortch, you love way more than the numbers love.
I get
just
it.
The numbers love Bateman. You hate Bateman. You love Dortch, and the numbers hate Dortch.
What are you
just
do?
The way it is.
But looking at potential skyrocket value, so Michael Wilson with a healthy Kyler Murray could easily exceed 800 yards and 6 touchdowns this year, easily. And getting him this late would be tremendous.
Well, the other part you have to realize is you have all the starters ahead of them.
Exactly.
Like these are insurance picks.
But here's what I'm saying is that Michael Wilson, out of all of these players that are being drafted right now, Michael Wilson's the number 2. Wan'Dale Robinson is the number 2. Rashad Bateman is the number 2.
We can get a starting quarterback in the last pick. I think we might just do that as insurance policy.
Who?
Derek Carr. If he's still on the board.
We don't really have anything to match up with him, though.
No, we don't. But
and our
it's an insurance policy.
And our wide receivers are not super duper strong.
Let's see. I like our receiving room.
I did say I didn't like it. I said it's not like super duper strong. It's always good to have 3 quarterbacks. I'm not going to fight you with that. It's always good to have 3 quarterbacks.
And we got 3 starting quarterbacks. I mean, it's to me that's kind of a cheat. But I mean, who's more likely to be used? The 7th receiver or the 3rd quarterback?
On our team, Derek Carr probably will never hit the field.
Yeah, regardless, this guy's never hitting the field.
Yeah. I mean, what we want is that, maybe they'll spike a week where it's like 30 points, right? And the only out of the
Carr's not that kind of. Bo Nix will be the one to pick because Bo Nix, will at least run.
Out of the players that are on the board right now, out of the quarterback room, if Hurts and Love stay healthy the full season,
it's never playing.
Is never gonna slot in unless they have a super crazy spike week, and Derek Carr is not capable of having a super crazy.
But Bo Nix might.
Bo Nix could if he sees the field. He's not guaranteed to see the field, but if he does,
well, neither is Matt Collins. Who would you rather go with? This is the question: Matt Collins or Bo Nix?
Matt Collins could see the field, and he has a good chance of maybe making our lineup.
Matt Collins it is then.
Because thinking about it, Josh Allen could definitely spread the ball around. He already has 3 guys ahead of him. Shakir's unknown. Curtis Samuel is a known. Keon Coleman is an unknown. You could definitely see they could definitely run 4 wide as well at any point.
They do run 4 wide.
And allow Josh Allen to run. So I think there's value there. Again, you see Kamani Vidal being drafted very late when he was being drafted 4 or 5 rounds higher before the preseason started. He was being drafted in the same round as J.K. Dobbins, actually. So that's kind of concerning. I also like DeMarcus Robinson. I know that we had a someone come in and talk to us about Jordan Whittingham, but DeMarcus Robinson does a job. So I'm definitely in on that. I'm curious what will come up with the averages, what it says. I always like to see what it says.
Well, the problem with the average, and this is just to hit on a side thing with Underdogs, is it is just doing a raw add up of all the projected averages they're doing for the year, not whoever actually will hit the field. So anytime someone drafts 3 quarterbacks, they will have the highest average.
Yes,
because quarterbacks are going to score more total points than an 18th round player, period. So it's basically just asking the question, who has more quarterbacks on their team? To me, it's not a good metric. So I don't really spend a whole lot of time on it.
Not a fun one.
To be totally blunt with you.
It's not a fun one. That's for sure.
But nonetheless, man, you start off with a roster that has Breece Hall and Derrick Henry on it. You have a lot of touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, I love this lineup.
This is what I like about what we did today. And it's not, it's not tooting our own horns or anything, but this is something that we discussed earlier in the offseason, is that Yes, it's important to diversify your portfolio.
Mhm.
You know, but if you have guys that you project that are going to do really well, there's no reason that is, there's no reason to not really take them in each
Mhm.
of your drafts if it fits into your build, right? You shouldn't just diversify for the sake of diversifying. You should diversify where it makes sense. So where we're
Mhm.
diversifying is where it really matters, right? Is in the
Yeah.
quarterback situations.
I mean,
Is
we
that
have one with Lamar, we have one with Hurts. Those are
um,
two diversified builds.
is that looking at the league, looking at the leagues and looking where you're at is saying to yourself, okay, like, yeah, I might want to get Debo 98% of the time. If I don't get him, that's fine.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna
I
take
got to take him
Debo,
8th overall.
I'm not gonna take Debo in the first round, right? What
I've
what
taken him in 11th before. I've taken him in 11 a couple
what
times.
we I mean, that at least makes a little bit of sense. Is looking and changing your boards, like depending on where you're at, like where we were at this time, where we almost got AJ Brown,
Yeah,
but we got Brees, which is a nice consolation prize.
sure is.
But we still were able to build Jalen Hurts with Devonta Smith.
Hmm.
So, and then also as far as that's true, you look at both of the lineups that we built today. We built two with two very strong quarterbacks, with
Hmm.
two very strong wide receiver combinations, and people will say like, well, why did you build two of them? Well, two, where we drafted at, we're not we're not cannibalizing the rest of our team. Like we took Jordan Love and Dak basically in the same rounds.
Pretty much.
Um, and yeah, we might have missed out on Mostert, who we like to have on our team. We
Hmm.
might have missed out on Zach Moss, but it does make our team stronger insofar as who is more likely to be able to ping 25 points or more in a given week. And, you look at Love Hurts for our one lineup, and then
Hmm.
Dak and
Lamar, that Dak Lamar one is strong.
Dak Lamar. You look at those two quarterback situations, is that we basically are almost, in a way, trying to guarantee 25 plus points in a week from our
That's what
one
we're going with. It's how you win best ball.
but we're
So,
not but we didn't sacrifice anything from the other positions. That's the key. Like you don't want to go like Anthony Richardson, Lamar Jackson, because then you
no.
are really cannibalizing and trying to play catch up down the line. And that's the situation where you're going like four running backs in a row and you never like I will tell you, like I've seen it, I have done it, and I hate it. Where you where you're trying to make up ground, but you only end up getting further and further behind because then you get situations like I won my league last year, but like taking Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson because you're like, oh shit, I didn't take a running back or I didn't take a wide receiver, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do this, right? So if
Hmm.
you just tuned in, Joe and I just finished two marathon drafts on Underdog, and we were just
Yeah, I
talking
invite you
about
to check it out. It's a beautiful, beautiful
um,
week.
finishing up the episode here. So if you didn't tune in, make sure you go back and take a look at those drafts. We talked about stacking. We talked about building teams with multiple quarterback stacks on them. In our first team, we had three quarterback wide receiver stacks and three really good quarterback wide receiver stacks where those quarterbacks can ping or
Hmm.
spike up to a 30-point week. And then this one where our running back room, both of our running back rooms is really strong in these builds.
They
That like
were.
that's the thing to think about too, is that we were able to build a strong quarterback with a strong running back room with even a strong wide receiver room. And
Yep,
that
and it's mostly because we know those holes in the middle of the draft at receiver, and we know how to pick them up. Predominantly Myers and Cooks. So that being
I wouldn't say those are the guys all the time.
oh,
And
but there are certainly the ones in the mid rounds that are incredibly valuable for where their ADP
but
is.
they definitely
They
can
should be going 4 rounds higher than they are.
they can definitely anchor a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 kind of situation for
And
you
it's
where
beautiful.
you're not really concerned. Like that's the thing about these mid-round wide receivers is that while the mid-round running backs might not like while the backs after Zach Moss might not have as much value as those wide receivers in that round. Like those wide receivers, like people are forgetting about, and I'll talk about this still in Blue in the Face. People are forgetting about Adam Thielen. People are forgetting about Wan'Dale Robinson.
Well, Carolina forgot about Adam Thielen from Thanksgiving on.
Michael, yeah, like I said, Dark Side earlier, a guy like Michael Wilson in the 13th, 14th round. These are all potential wide receiver 2s. If something were to happen to the wide receiver 1, all of a sudden there's something there. But they all have their own role on the team as well. Thielen is great at what he does. Yeah, they'll forget about him at some point in time, but in the weeks that he's not forgotten, he's probably going to put up a decent amount of points. Wan'Dale Robinson, same thing. Yeah, Dark Side. I talked about Tyler Boyd as well. Tyler Boyd right now fits in really well. If this Will Levis as a quarterback is a quarterback that is going to be like a gunslinger style, like a Brett Favre kind of thing going on. They brought in Calvin Ridley. They have DeAndre Hopkins, and now they brought in Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd can play. Tyler Boyd knows how to play football, and you're taking him in those rounds, especially in best ball where I don't have to think about who I have to sit every week.
That's why you take the ceilings.
I'm in on Tyler Boyd. I'm in on a guy like Jermaine Burton and stuff like that. Like, I'm willing to take a chance on Wan'Dale Robinson because if Daniel Jones, like I said, if Daniel Jones is going to be projected for 20 plus touchdowns in a year, Malik Neighbors is not catching 20. Slayton will probably catch 3 or 4. Then you have Jalen Hyatt that might catch 2 or 3. Then you might have Bellinger, Theo Johnson that might catch.
The point is, Wan'Dale's going to be better than a lot of people think. He just got the Giants curse on him, so people get worried.
Even Mike Williams, like we talked about, if Mike Williams ends up playing a full entire year and not Mike Williams and himself at any one point in time, that's going to be great value. And we've done that in weekly winners. We've taken Mike Williams a whole bunch.
When we went weekly winners to win, I believe it was week 14, Mike Williams was one of our key targets. So that being said, guys, we thank you all for watching us.
Joe, before we go, Dark Side brought up a point which I think you've talked about before. You can definitely build a team without going running backs early. But the one key difference is that in these big tournaments where you have lots and lots of teams and you have to beat out not just your bracket, but you have to beat out everybody
every week. That's what a marathon is. Yeah.
You really need to understand that running backs have a lot of value in something like that. Yeah,
they're your foundation.
Because if you don't have a strong foundation, then you're going to kind of be playing this roulette of I'm going to take 4 guys in these middle rounds, but then you're losing out on that wide receiver value. You're losing out on potentially taking a quarterback in those rounds that is going to be very good.
You really just handcuff yourself. When you have 2 solid running backs for the first 5 rounds, you're set. You don't have to worry.
And it really, and like for me, even if my running backs end up being like, if I have a combination, which we didn't see today, right? If we end up having a combination that's like CD, then we come around and we get Kyron, and then say Travis Etienne and everybody else were to go, and we were to take another wide receiver in the 3rd round, and then the 4th round taking James Cook, I'm set. Like I'm set on that. And then coming back in the 6th round, taking a guy like David Montgomery, waiting until the 7th or 8th round to take Mostert, you're setting yourself up for like a solid foundation where you're not chasing after the Brian Robinsons. You're not chasing after the Ecklers. But you can take a Brian Robinson. You can take an Eckler. But now you're not so worried that they are going to have to start on a week-to-week basis. They're just an extra kind of luxury if an injury were to happen. They can slot in for you. So, Dark Side, we've talked about this before a lot, where getting 2 running backs out of the first 5 rounds is very, very important.
It's very beneficial.
It depends on what running backs you take, but it could definitely pay out for you in the long run, and it probably will.
That's exactly it. Well, we thank you all, team players. Make sure you click subscribe, and we'll be with you again here next week. Welcome